Your Excellencies, members of Ifimes Council, members of Ifimes, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, allow me to welcome you on behalf of the International Institute for Middle East and Balkan Studies, Ifimes from Ljubljana, the organizer of today's lecture of the Ambassador of the Republic of Turkey, Her Excellency Esen Altug, with the title Turkish Foreign Policy, Enterprising and Humanitarian Foreign Policy. Her Excellency Esen Altug is an ambassador of the Republic of Turkey to Slovenia since November 2016. She joined the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Republic of Turkey in 1985. Since then, she has covered a wide range of topics such as maritime and aviation matters, political affairs with European countries, migration, both at national and global level, visa policies and asylum, regional, transboundary waters and multilateral economic affairs. She had position in Egypt, Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, Germany and the Netherlands. Before coming to Slovenia, she was Deputy Director General of the Department for Migration, Asylum and Visas at Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Turkey. At the lecture, Ambassador Altug will talk about basic dynamics and futures of Turkish foreign policy and its challenges. Spoštovana veleposlanica Esen Altug, Vaše ekscelence, člani sveta, svetovalnega odbora in člani Mednarodnega inštituta Ifimes, dame in gospodje, spoštovani udeleženci današnjega dogodka in vsi, ki nas spremljate prek spleta. Dovolite mi, da vas najprej pozdravim in se zahvalim, da ste se v toličnem številu odzvali našem današnjem povabilu na dogodek predavanje veleposlanice Republike Turčije v Republiki Sloveniji, njeni ekscelenci Esen Altug z naslovom Turška zunanja politika, inventivna in humanitarna zunanja politika. Spoštovana veleposlanica, dobrodošli na Ifimes. Njena ekscelenca Esen Altug je veleposlanica Republike Turčije od novembra 2016, od leta 1985 dela na turškem ministrstvu za zunanje zadeve, delovala je na različnih področjih, kot so pomorske in letalske zadeve, odnose z evropskimi državami, migracije na nacionalni in globalni ravni, vizumske politike in azil, regionalne, čezmejne vode in multilateralne gospodarske zadeve. Službovala v Egiptu, Turški republiki, Severni Ciper, Nemčiji in na Nizozemskem. Pred prihodom v Slovenijo je bila na Ministrstvu za zunanje zadeve Turčije namestnica generalnega direktorja oddelka za migracije, azil in vizume. Na predavanju bo veleposlanica Altug govorila o osnovni dinamiki in značilnosti turške zunanje politike in njenih izzivov. Gospa veleposlanica, izvolite, Your Excellency, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I think we have a presentation.
Yes.
Dobar dan, dear participants, dear directors of Ifimes, Mr. Bahtiyar Aliyev and Mr. Ziyad Becirovic, and dear colleagues. First, thank you very much for coming today. I would like to extend my thanks to the International Institute for Middle East and Balkan Studies, Ifimes, for giving me today this opportunity to share our perspective on Turkish humanitarian diplomacy and its challenges. As stated by our Foreign Minister, Mr. Çavuşoğlu, humans are at the core of our activities, and foreign policy needs foresight and action. It needs initiative. That's why Turkey takes initiatives with an enterprising and humanitarian foreign policy approach. What are the motives of such a policy? First, situated at the center of a geography where massive transformation takes place intensively, Turkey is directly affected by these challenges. We are living in a rapidly changing world. Our responses to the humanitarian crisis should be effective and timely. Turkey is a regional power with a population of 81 million and the second largest military in NATO. Turkey aims to strengthen regional security and stability while upholding its fight against terrorism and irregular migration. We have to take concrete initiatives to promote stability and prosperity in our region. Furthermore, over centuries, Turkey has been considered as a safe haven to many people seeking refuge. Throughout history, we have faced different flows of migration in forms of mass influxes. Today, we witness the biggest refugee and migration crisis since World War II. According to the UN figures, for the time being 260 million, we have migrants, 68 million displaced people, and over 25 million refugees in the world. These figures are constantly rising due to reasons such as hunger, civil wars, terrorism, political instabilities, and also, of course, with maybe in the future more in accordance with the climate change. Turkey's enterprising and humanitarian foreign policy is clearly reflected in her initiatives to bring peace to Syria. We have provided shelter to everyone seeking international protection within our territories without considering their ethnic, religion or sectarian differences. And when the number of migrants in 2015 overflowing into the EU became unbearable, the EU reached out to Turkey. And in just 4 months, 3 summits were held with the EU. And we concluded the 18 March 2016 agreement. It was the concrete result. Although our region is still suffering from the humanitarian crisis in Syria, irregular arrivals to the EU decreased by 99%, and this is due to Turkey's strong commitment for the effective implementation of the agreement. We succeeded in ending the flow of migrants and saving many lives that would otherwise be lost at sea. We continue our humanitarian aid to the people of Syria. Since 2011, it means that for 8 years nowadays, Turkey has provided shelter almost 3.5 million Syrians. According to the UN criteria, we have spent 32 billion US dollars for their needs. And this money came from our own financial resources. And the international aid, we got only 600 million US dollars, and until now we got from the EU 1.7 billion euros for the needs of the Syrians. As you will see, the heavy burden of humanitarian consequences of the Syrian crisis has been left to Turkey's shoulders. Of course, we provided them safety, we provided them shelters. We have now 21 refugee camps. But the most important thing that what we have learned from this crisis is emergency aid reaches donors. It is the easiest part, but the most difficult part is the development aid and the humanitarian, their needs of humanitarian. Because you may think that only giving shelter will be enough for them. No, it's not enough. They need education. They need psychological help. They need health services. And also they want, of course, to enter the labor market. And until now, today, Turkey really supplied most of it. And today, 600,000 Syrian schools are going to the Turkish public schools. Is it enough? No. there are also lots of children, Syrian children, out of the school. So it is a responsibility and a burden that should be shared by all the international community. You may think that, okay, the neighboring countries should do it, but geographical proximity does not mean always the responsibility. You know, we need others' help also. In Lebanon, in Jordan, also there are lots of Syrians living today, and they are in need of other things, not only food, but non-food items. And for example, even a municipality, when they start to live in one municipality, of course the population increases, then it needs infrastructure. So it's also a very, not easy task to continue. I think you see all the numbers, so I don't want to repeat it again here. The education is the most important part of it, and 17,000 Syrian students are being educated at Turkish universities. And we follow the principle of non-refoulement until now, and we will continue to pursue our humanitarian approach. We have demonstrated such attitude in the latest Idlib crisis, the trilateral summit in Tehran, and later the Sochi agreement between President Erdogan and President Putin prevented really a huge humanitarian tragedy. We have really shown that while keeping our resolve in the fight against terrorism, we can also protect civilians and residential areas. Thanks to such efforts that we have also significantly reduced a new migratory flows to Turkey and the EU from Syria, because now in Idlib 3.5 million living. If the bombing starts, if the peace agreement fails, these people will trigger another wave of migration flows, refugees, that I think in the world none of the states would like to have. After explaining to you the situation in Turkey, what we have done for these refugees, while hosting the biggest refugee population in the world, Turkey at the same time became a major donor of humanitarian aid. Turkey's humanitarian assistance has been diversified. According to the Global Humanitarian Assistance Report 2017, Turkey ranks as the largest donor country worldwide with its $8 billion humanitarian assistance. Of course, the Turkish Red Crescent Society and other NGOs are very active on the field. Turkey's humanitarian contributions are not confined to bilateral assistance projects, but also we have a very close link with the international organizations. Effective and concerted efforts of the whole international community is key to finding sustainable solutions. With this understanding, we organized in 2016 the first humanitarian summit in Istanbul. I think almost 10,000 participants were present. One of the key achievements of Istanbul Summit was the recognition of the old debates on humanitarian and development aids. And of course, it is very discussable at the UN circles also which one is humanitarian or development aid has the priority. And with this summit, we made this approach that both of them are crucial. And always humanitarian aid should be supported by the development assistance programs. all relevant actors should work together not only to meet the urgent needs but to effectively reduce risks and vulnerabilities over time. An approach which in fact Turkey has successfully applied for years in different crisis situations in Africa, notably in Somalia. The logic is in fact simple. In addition to humanitarian donations, provide the communities in need with also development assistance tools such as basic infrastructure, institutional capacity building. So the aim is to reduce their dependence on donors and to strengthen their resilience in their home countries. And of course, we have a very well-known agency, the Turkish Cooperation and Coordination Agency, TİKA, with its 61 coordination offices operating in 59 countries, is making a real difference in this regard with concrete development projects which touch the lives of thousands of ordinary people. After telling you this, our humanitarian and development assistance approach, of course, you may ask, so what is the strategy? What we should do to prevent these irregular movements in the world? We think that, of course, as already it is mentioned with many leaders, that root causes very important. Root causes of these migration flows should be addressed. So it means that more development aid is needed in Africa or in Middle East, or of course to end this instability in that regions. And secondly, of course, we can say that maybe as support is crucial for the transit countries, because migrants overcome from every time from a transit country. That support is important. It could be financial aid or it can be resettlement programs with the UN procedure. And of course, lastly, we should have avoid negative rhetoric towards these people. Xenophobia, racism, extremism should also be provided, and it's a big responsibility for all the leaders, for all the maybe civil society also. Our global initiatives such as the Mediation for Peace and UN Alliance of Civilizations are co-sponsored with EU members such as Finland and Spain. So Turkey tries to counter various forms of extremism and develop intercultural understanding as well as to end conflicts and enhance, of course, a sustainable peace worldwide. So these are the main points that I can tell you, but maybe it's much better to continue in an interactive way. You see all the numbers and everything in our presentation. Thank you very much for your patience, and I also want to congratulate Ifimes for, as you all know, that they have a consultative role in the UN ECOSOC system. Congratulations and thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. I would like to ask Mr. Ayla to start with the discussion.
My first question is, how do you apprise the position of the Republic of Turkey in the Balkans? There are often mentioned the neo-Ottoman ambitions of Turkey. That the Turkey considers the region as it is interest zone.
In fact, thank you very much for this question. Yes, it's a very discussable issue. I read every time lots of articles in the press. You know, Turkey has been in the Balkans for the time being is in the Balkans, and we will be a Balkan state in the future. We have not come back in to the region now. We have been there 4 years, and our main policy, Turkish foreign policy, is we really support integration of all Balkan countries to NATO and EU. Because we know that the stability in the region can only be established with their NATO and EU memberships. It's very crucial. And also Turkey really spends lots of efforts for the stability in the region, and we really want to increase the economic development in the region. We have lots of TICA development aid programs, and lately I think in Kosovo we had a program with the school for the education of that children, this Turkish Development Agency via. And the economic development also we see crucial of this region. Thank you.
Second question is, President Erdogan stressed yesterday that European Union have been holding Turkey since 1963 in the waiting room. Many consider the responsibility for this stagnation on European Union as well as on Turkey also. Does Turkey want to become a member of the European Union, or are there any alternative idea like the Balkan Union? Because some think tank and economic institutes in Turkey and in the Balkans are talking about, after the Brexit, about the Balkan Union with the, it means Turkey is here and with the Great Britain, United Kingdom.
Yes, you know, with the EU, as you have already mentioned, that we had this association agreement in 1963. I have to tell you that this is my birth year. So now I am 55 years old, so it's a very long journey for us. In 1990 we became a candidate country, and after 6 years we were able to open our chapters and negotiation process started. But still, of course, there is now a standstill, and we have some difficulties for both sides. But as our president always mentions that the EU is our strategic goal. There is no doubt about it. Because, you know, in this neighborhood, we need Europe, EU, and EU needs Turkey. So we have to know how to cooperate. We should live together. For instance, as I gave you in my speech an example, EU-Turkey agreement on migration, March, it was a real success, really. And also, you know, lately, this Idlib-Sochi agreement is also another success to prevent this humanitarian catastrophe. And even EU leaders thank Turkey for the involvement. Because this is our region. And today, of course, we always say that we are living in a global world, but globalism, I think, in a way, we are getting smaller. So when there is a war in Africa or in any other place in the world, it affects all us.
Where do you see Turkey in overall regional and international relations? Now it's a very wide question. It means not only European Union, now international relations, especially regarding your relations with your neighbors, with the United States, with Israel.
Turkey is of course, we live in maybe the most unstable region in the world. You know, our neighbors now, Syria, Iraq, Iran, and before we had been a neighbor with the Soviet Union for years. we are, Turkey is a strong country with its human resources. It's very important. 81 million, and we are the NATO country. We have our alliance, and we always defend our alliance interests. And of course, our economy is also booming, and we should have like this. Our trade relations are very important in the region, and we follow a realistic policy. Of course, we have interests with Europe, it's very clear, but also we have interests in Africa, in Latin America. We have to also focus and make more strong ties with these regions, even they may be far away from Turkey. And we are a member of the Council of Europe since the foundation. We are the founding member of this Council of Europe. So we have, of course, but while having very close and intense relations with Europe, we also, as it has been seen in the latest Idlib crisis, we have a relationship with our neighbor Russia, and we should have, because we have cultural bonds, we have historical bonds, and also, of course, we have very trade volume is very high. But when you ask that the biggest trade we make with the EU countries, more, I think 60% of our trade is with the EU.
Now your message to, as you know, that Turkish-Slovenian relations and in the future of this relations since there is signed agreement on strategic partnership between both countries. Your message to the Slovenian or from the Balkan, the investors, the companies, because we mentioned economy before this, and what's your message to them?
Of course, we have really very good relations with Slovenia, with all the authorities. We have, as you have already told, strategic partnership since 2011. I think Slovenia has only 3 strategic partners with France, Germany and Turkey. So it's very important, and I am very happy that we don't have any open political issues. I am very happy that our economic relations are at the increasing trend. Last year, we had an increase like 30%, if I am not mistaken. Our commercial council is also here. So we really want to increase our economic relations, and I am also very happy as an ambassador seeing that more Turkish investors are coming here, and they try to make some investment in Slovenia. Because Slovenia, for Turkish investors has a special place. Why? Your geographical location. You are very close to the big EU markets. And for Turkish investors, it's really a very important market, and it's a developing market. And also vice versa, we want to see more Slovenian investors, businessmen also in Turkey.
Thank you. Now your question, if you have any question, please. Please.
Thank you. First, I would like to
Please
apologize.
present.
Yeah, I'm the Brazilian ambassador, and I would like to apologize. I had to come late because I was in the airport receiving our ambassador from Geneva, and she's taking part in the human rights meeting Slovenia is promoting the next 2 days. But I would like to mention that recently, 2 or 3 days ago, we were in a meeting about Romanian cases during the communist times, and they presented all the situation Romania lived in that moment. And I mentioned that we were discussing about the past when people were not allowed to leave their countries. In contrast with today, that people are not allowed to enter in a country. And I would talk about my country, that we are an open country. We have been receiving in the last 2 years 150 Venezuelans, our brothers Venezuelans, because they are in the middle of a crisis. 150,000, yes, and they are coming to Brazil. And of course, there are many reactions into society, but we reaffirm our commitment to be open to these people who need our help. And not only we are receiving these Venezuelans, these brother Venezuelans, but also we are allocating him in different parts of the countries to have jobs, to have a better life, to have an opportunity that they are not having in their own land. Said that, I would like to congratulate, because Turkey is experiencing, living the same process, receiving millions, as I said. And probably you already talked about that, but I lost, and I just would like to know how you see this situation, because it's very important that the world keep open to the necessity of the others, to be open to the suffering of the others.
That's right. Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. Yes, I was at that day together with you at the Romanian event. Yes, in Turkey, since 2011, we opened our doors because we believe that you may, of course, close your borders. It is the easiest thing, but it's not a solution. And this migration issue will continue. You cannot stop it unless you take very, important steps. And over centuries, Turkey, opened its doors to the people who need. For instance, in 1980s, Bulgarian Turks, more than 300,000, and then Iraqi Kurds. At one night from our border, almost 500,000 Iraqi Kurds entered. It's really very sad event, of course. And now the Syrians. So Turkey is focused on how to manage this migration, because we have to manage. There are some tools. We have to learn all of them. And as I mentioned, emergency aid is important, but what is more important, their infrastructure, their development, their education, their health services. And this is not sustainable for Turkey. For the time being, we continue to spend Syrians. So we are looking for international funds, and we will spend for these people, for the needs of Syrians. Even, because the numbers are very big. For example, Syrian children for school. Our schools are not enough. And we have to build new schools, new school buildings for them. Open new classes, but building is not enough. You have to find teachers. So it's really not easy, and so we all wish that a political solution will be able in Syria, in that region. Otherwise, it is not easy to continue like this. And as we have now for the time being stopped Idlib humanitarian, but we do not know next month what will happen. So it's very crucial, and so we want from all international community even the countries may be far away, but to start to do something. For example, I became very happy. I read yesterday in the news that Slovenia started to educate the Syrian children in Lebanon, a Slovenian NGO. It is very important. It is the responsibility sharing. Maybe the number cannot be very big number, but one of the Slovenian NGO, maybe the state also assisted. I do not know the details, but it is a show of solidarity. And of course, as I already mentioned, we have to make all the states. For example, Turkey, we are #1 donor, as I explained to you. And our national income, unfortunately, not very high. And so it is a responsibility of humanity. So we say that Turkish, we have this enterprising and humanitarian policy, because humanitarian crises are very imminent in our region, and we have to be very quick. We have to make a quick responses to them. And for example, you saw, I think, some photos from the refugee camps in Turkey. And we really, the management and everything. But I can tell you that, of course, migration, we always see this migration as a problem. But on the other hand, there are some opportunities of migration. Some skilled people can work, maybe they can be more effective in the work life. But of course, regular migration is easier to manage. The most important thing is the mass flows. And for example, with the EU agreement, we made March 2016 lots of critics, but we saved lots of lives. And what we agreed with the EU, we will take, one Syrian from the Greek islands, but one Syrian will be resettled in the EU countries. Always different cultures, different trained people can be helpful to the societies. But it's not an easy task, of course. So we have to develop some tools. UN is also working on it, and we brought this issue on the agenda of the UN. Now I know that UN is working on Global Compact on migration and other issues. But this is the issue of our world, and it will, as the UN Secretary General, I think Ban Ki-moon told that this is a fact of today's world. So thank you very much for your remarks.
Next question. Naslednje vprašanje.
I'm Vladimir Gajšek, writer. Your Excellency, thank you for this experience. My question is, what is invention in foreign politics in Turkey? What is this invention? Is humanity? It's only money, or it's our society? Because in postmodern times, it's humanity the best. Also, I think so in foreign policy.
Yes, that's right. Thank you very much for your remark. Yes, humanity is very important, and when you have this policy, of course, as I have told you, for example, Africa, we also have very intense trade ties.
Yes.
So because when you, of course, make these development aids to them, then your trade is also increasing. So all the other countries can take this example. Thank you.
Next question, naslednje vprašanje. Če jih doma. Then I must to ask you another question, because we talk about economy. The economy is also connected with terrorism and security threats. What is the situation now with FET organization in Turkey now?
Yes. Thank you very much. Yes, as you know, unfortunately, Turkey experienced a coup attempt, but it is over. It only stayed as an attempt. So we had this, of course, state of emergency, but we have already 3 months ago lifted this state of emergency, and now we are focused on reforms again. Of course, this organization is a crime network. Unfortunately, they infiltrated all the state institutions, but now we have to look forward, and we still focus on our future. For the time being, everything is safe and secure in Turkey. Our tourism also increased again, which is very important for us. And this year we are waiting 40 million tourists to Turkey. Because tourism sector is very, very important in our economy. And our exports is also going down. And of course, Turkey has been, fighting against terrorist elements for years. This is not a new one. We have been fighting against PKK, as you know, and then FETÖ, and also Turkey fought against Daesh, ISIS. And we gave a really very struggled against Daesh, and after our operations in the northern Syrians, more than 200,000 Syrians went back to that region. It's very important, of course. So we are at the International Alliance against the Daesh, and we will continue to fight against them, because we are really against every kind of radicalism.
My next question is regarding Cyprus. How is going on the negotiation regarding the unification of the island?
Last year we had very intense talks with the Greek, Cypriot, Greece, Turkey, and the UN at Crans-Montana. Maybe the talks continued more than 10 days. It was very intense talks. But in the end, unfortunately, we saw that the Greek Cypriot part is not ready mentally to live together on an equal political footing. But of course, we are always open to these peaceful negotiations, and under the UN framework. I think I read the news that maybe the Greek and Turkish Cypriot leaders will again come together. And our parameters are very clear, our policy very clear in Cyprus, regarding Cyprus. So we expect the same from the Greek Cypriots.
How about this relation regarding, now we are talking about Cyprus, as you know, I think today and tomorrow, the prime ministers of Greece, Cyprus and Egypt will meet in Creta regarding the gas pipelines and the gas fields.
Yes.
And as I follow is this, that the Republic of North Cyprus, they have also their gas fields. And how is the position of Turkey now?
The position of Turkey is very clear, of course. This Turkish part of Cyprus, they have some sovereign areas at the maritime, of course, at the sea. And so every state should show respect to other sovereign areas at sea, at air, or at land. So this is very crucial for us. Of course, international organizations, I think one company from Italy, they have some excavations. And natural gas could be, of course, in that area. But of course, we have always told that they should also ask permission from the Turkish Cypriot side, and maybe a cooperation can be done, of course. But the legitimate rights of these Turkish Cypriots should be observed. It's very important.
I'll come back again to economic. Now we are talking about the American sanctions against Iran. As you know, European Union, they trying to find models for cooperation with Iran because they are a part of the agreement between European Union and the six lateral agreement. Now, as you know, some countries, they say that they would, after the 4th of November, will cooperate with Iran. These countries is Turkey, Oman, and Iraq. They are neighbors of Iran. Do you think that Turkey can to cooperate with them and the European companies through Turkey and through Oman to cooperate with Iran to bypass the American sanctions?
Of course, Iran is our neighbor, and we should have good relations with our neighbors. This is our policy, you know. We try at least to have good relations always with our neighbors. And Iran is a very big trade partner of Turkey also. So I was not aware of such initiative, but of course it might be. But I don't have any information, official information on this issue.
Now, do you have any question? Чи маєте ще какшно питання? Yeah, please.
Good afternoon, Mrs. Ambassador. I'm Charles Nunn. I'm a French press correspondent based in Ljubljana. Could you please provide a little bit more details regarding your strategy regarding the Western Balkans? So do you wish to focus on some countries, some areas, some priorities, and do you aim at having an active role in some dispute resolution maybe? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Of course, our Balkan policy depends on first stability, then economic development of the region. And we fully support all Balkan countries, EU and NATO integration, and until now, Turkey really gave a big support to the Balkan countries already now became a NATO member. And our support will continue. There might be misunderstandings, as Mr. Bahtiyar told that there are some critics that Turkey, there's nothing like this, you know. We are not competing with anyone in the Balkans. We are trying to increase our economic relations, and we are open to cooperation with other states. We have been there for centuries. Now we are Balkan states, and in the future again. So these are our neighbors, of course, which is very, very important, and we have very deep cultural links with all the Balkan states, and today also deep economic relations. The only thing that is in the interest of Turkey is the stability in the region. Otherwise, it's not our interest.
Then how do you see regarding the Western Balkan now, this agreement between Macedonia and Greece regarding the name? We have the referendum, as you know, and now we are waiting in the Macedonian parliament for early elections.
Of course, it's a positive step. As soon as it's peaceful, always we support it. But of course, it's up to the people of these countries. Greece or Macedonia, it's the decision of people.
Чи є какшно питання?
rule of Republic Turkey in Bosnia?
The position.
The position. Of course, we have very close links with Bosnia. Always we have very deep cultural relations, deep human relations, and lots of Bosnians now living in Turkey, as you know. So they have their relatives living in Turkey. It's the same with the Macedonia, Albania. So we have very close links, and we of course always want Bosnia's stability and peace. It is very, very important, Bosnia, because we have lived, of course, very bad experiences in
How
the past.
implication new strategic partners between Turkey and Russia Federation implication to Bosnia situation?
You know, we have, of course, good relations with Russia, but it's not an alternative relations to the western parts, and of course we have very intense relations with Russia. We may have some concrete projects in the Balkans, but not only with Russia, we have also some concrete projects with the EU countries in the Balkans, in Bosnia. And Turkish firms also, I think lots of you know better than me, lots of carrying out these infrastructure projects also, and most of them are multi-companies, not only Turkish companies, but sometimes, you know, mixed companies. So it is our strategy towards the Western Balkans is always peace and stability.
I would like to thank Ambassador Esen Altug for her interesting lecture, which will help us better understand the Turkish foreign policy and the situations in the region in general. At the end, I would like to invite you to our next event in November about organizing will be around the table local self-determination in Slovenia before the Slovenian local election. Thank you.
Very interesting. Thank you very much all for your patience.
Thank you, because
Thank
here
you.
now is say the round table will be next month regarding the local elections. And you have local elections, I think, next year.
Yes, next
Yes, in
year.
March.
Next year. So
Thank you very much.
Thank you.